The same day I landed a dream job offer at a prestigious architecture firm, my cousin's wife, Brenda, announced she was pregnant. In the same breath, she told me I had to either move out or pay $8,000 a month for living expenses. What she didn't know is that the house we were all living in was mine, and the money the family used also came from me. To celebrate my new job, my Uncle David made a huge feast. Even my cousin Leo, who was usually swamped with work, rushed home for dinner. After we opened a celebratory bottle of wine, Brenda, who had been eating quietly, suddenly spoke up. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent for a beat before erupting in laughter and excitement. Leo's face turned beet red with joy as he stared at Brenda's belly. "Really, Brenda? Why didn't you tell me?" Brenda smiled shyly. "I wanted to surprise you." No one was happier than Uncle David and Aunt Susan. Leo and Brenda had been married for 4 years with no children, so this was huge news. I was genuinely happy for them, and made a mental note to get my future niece or nephew a big gift. But as the joyful atmosphere swelled, Brenda put down her chopsticks. "There's one more thing I want to mention." Aunt Susan, her eyes still sparkling with joy, asked, "What is it, dear?" "I think Clara should move out," Brenda said, her expression turning cold. "She's already found a job, and now that I'm pregnant, it's going to be inconvenient after the baby is born." The room fell silent. Uncle David and Aunt Susan's faces grew awkward. Brenda, though usually quiet, had never used such a cold tone with me. I always thought she was nice, so I responded kindly, "There shouldn't be any inconvenience. When the baby arrives, I can even help take care of it." "When the baby comes, there won't be enough room for everyone," she retorted. "How could that be?" I said, trying to be considerate. "We can renovate the basement suite and make a whole private space for your little family." "There will be more than enough room." Brenda shot me an inexplicable glare. Aunt Susan chimed in to reassure her. "Brenda, don't worry, we'll make sure neither you nor the baby is uncomfortable." But Brenda wasn't finished. "When I have the baby, I'll be recovering. I won't be able to move around or dress properly. It's just not right to have an outsider in the house." Her expression suddenly softened. "Clara, I'm not trying to force you out, but you've been living here for so many years. Isn't it time you moved on?" Seeing my face darken, she added, "Your parents passed away early. When you were in college and grad school, my in-laws covered all your living expenses. Nowadays, young women are all about independence. It's time you learned some self-respect and started living on your own." That's when Uncle David, who had been silent, slammed his hand on the table. "That's enough, Brenda," he yelled. "You're getting out of line." "Leo, take your wife back to your room." Leo quickly stepped in to defend her. "Dad, Brenda's pregnant. Why are you yelling at her? Besides, she's not wrong." Uncle David lost it. He slammed his glass down and shouted at Leo, "Then you can get out too." The thing is, Brenda was completely wrong. 8 years ago, my parents were in a car accident and both fell into comas. That year, I was about to take my college entrance exams, juggling school and the hospital. When I started thinking about hiring a nurse, Uncle David came to me and said, "Clara, you don't need to hire a nurse. Aunt Susan and I can take care of them." He had always been kind to me, but taking care of one person in a coma was hard, let alone 2. "It's no trouble," he had said, tears welling in his eyes. "They're my sister and brother-in-law. No one will care for them better than family." I agreed and paid Uncle David and Aunt Susan a generous monthly stipend, well above the standard caregiver salary, to take care of my parents. They did a great job. My parents were always clean and well cared for. They looked after them for nearly 2 years before they both passed away. At my request, we never discussed the financial arrangement with Leo or Brenda, as I didn't want them to feel awkward. The tension in the dining room was now palpable. Brenda, with a harsh expression, continued, her voice dripping with venom. "I'm just saying what's obvious. You've been living here for way too long. I know you may be comfortable, but—" She hesitated, giving Leo a superior glance. "The truth is, this house isn't yours. Since I'm the one having a baby, we should be the priority." I stared at them, my patience completely gone. It was time to lay everything out on the open. With a voice steadier than I expected, I began, "Brenda, Leo, I'm sorry, but you're both mistaken about a few things. The room fell even quieter. All eyes were on me. The truth is, whether you know it or not, this house is mine. Brenda's expression of disdain morphed into a mix of rage and humiliation. What? Leo stammered. Dad, this can't be true, right? Uncle David looked at him, his eyes filled with frustration and shame, and nodded slowly. I continued calmly. Yes, you heard me right. I bought this house with the inheritance I received after my parents passed. I paid Uncle David and Aunt Susan to take care of them while they were in comas. And all the money used for the upkeep of this house has come from me. Brenda stared at me, her lips trembling. Finally, she muttered, So you're saying this house is yours? Yes, I nodded. The house is mine, and the money we've been using to cover expenses here also comes from me. Without another word, Brenda stood up, her face twisted with anger, and marched upstairs. Leo followed her, still in a daze. I knew it wasn't over. The next afternoon, I came home from my new job to an eerily silent house. When I tried to open the front door, it wouldn't budge. My heart skipped a beat. The back door was locked, too. That's when I knew. Suddenly, Brenda appeared at an upstairs window. You're not taking this house from me, she screamed before disappearing back inside. She had changed the locks. With a bitter smile, I pulled out my phone. My first call was to my lawyer, my second was to the police. I calmly explained that a resident, my cousin's wife, had illegally changed the locks on my property and was refusing me entry. 30 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. I showed them my proof of ownership and they knocked on the door. When Brenda answered, her expression went from surprise to irritation. The officers calmly explained that the house was legally mine and that she had no right to lock me out. This is ridiculous, she argued. I'm pregnant. She's trying to throw me out. This house will be ours soon anyway. One officer shook his head, unfazed. Ma'am, what matters is the legal ownership right now. You changed the locks without permission. That's trespassing. I'm not leaving, she shouted, her voice shaking. The other officer spoke up firmly. You have 2 options. Either you leave the house now, or you'll be arrested for trespassing. It's your choice. Her face went pale. Her defiance crumbled. After a few tense moments, she let out a furious scream. You'll regret this. I'm leaving, but this isn't over. A few minutes later, she stomped down the stairs with a suitcase, shot me a look of pure malice, and walked out the door. After the police left, I stood in my living room, finally feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. In the weeks that followed, Leo tried to reach out multiple times, but my decision was made. Brenda was never setting foot in my house again, not even after their baby was born. She had shown her true colors, and I wasn't letting her back into my life or my home. They eventually found another place to live, and I moved on with my life in peace. My home was truly mine again.